Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, and things adjacent. A bit of a late upload tonight, but I just wanted to bring you all a few stories. First of all, I want to show you these pictures that I saw on Nick Humphrey's timeline, taken in Costa Rica. First one, taken in 1986 at a place where they were, capturing, studying insects. And the second one is 2019. And as you can see, that is where we are at as far as the number of the population of insects that we are losing. That's Costa Rica, a tropical area, which should have, a super high volume of insects. And that doesn't look like many insects at all now in 2019. Of course, this is going on all over the planet. People are reporting no bugs on their windshields anymore, no bugs in their yards, or, very few. We don't have June bugs anymore. There used to be June bugs all on the screen of the door, fighting to get in. June bugs everywhere. I haven't seen one June bug this year. I don't think I've seen a June bug for, I'm going to say at least 2 or 3 years. They're gone. The bees, we don't have many bees, and they are very lethargic and very sick. I've seen a few bees trying to pollinate my flowers, and they're barely moving, so they're not doing well. So I'm going to bring you 2 stories that should be frightening enough for a Thursday evening. They're both from Common Dreams. Both these stories. This is from July 9th, 2019. Completely terrifying study warns carbon-saturated oceans headed towards tipping point that could unleash mass extinction event. Once we're over the threshold, you're dealing with how the Earth works, and it goes on its own ride. The continuous accumulation of carbon dioxide in the planet's oceans, which shows no sign of stopping due to humanity's relentless consumption of fossil fuels, is likely to trigger a chemical reaction in Earth's carbon cycle similar to those which happened just before mass extinction events. According to a new study, MIT geophysics professor Daniel Rothman released new data on Monday showing that carbon levels today could be fast approaching a tipping point threshold that could trigger extreme ocean acidification similar to the kind that contributed to the Permian-Triassic mass extinction that occurred over 250 million years ago. Rothman's new research comes 2 years after he predicted that a mass extinction event could take place at the end of this century. Cross your fingers for that one. Since 2017, he has been working to understand how life on Earth might be wiped out due to increased carbon in the oceans. Rothman created a model in which he simulated adding carbon dioxide to oceans, finding that when the gas was added to an already stable marine environment, only temporary acidification occurred. Only temporary. Is there a clue in there for anybody? Anybody? When he continuously pumped carbon into the oceans, however, as humans have been doing at greater and greater levels since the late 18th century, the ocean model eventually reached a threshold which triggered what MIT called a cascade of chemical feedbacks, or excitation, causing extreme acidification and worsening the warming effects of the originally added carbon. Over the past 540 million years, these chemical feedbacks have occurred at various times, Rothman noted, but the most significant occurrences took place around the time of 4 out of the 5 mass extinction events, and today's oceans are absorbing carbon far more quickly than they did before the Permian-Triassic extinction, in which 90% of life on Earth died out. The planet may now be at the precipice of excitation, Rothman told MIT News. On social media, one critic called the study's implications about life on Earth completely terrifying. The study, which was completed with support from NASA and the National Science Foundation, also notes that even though humans have only been pumping carbon into the oceans for hundreds of years rather than thousands of years, it took for volcanic eruptions and other events to bring about their extinctions, the result will likely be the same. Once we're over the threshold, how we got there may not matter, Rothman told MIT News. Once you get over it, you're dealing with how the Earth works and it goes on its own ride. Other scientists said the study, which will be published this week in the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences, represents a clear call for immediate action to drastically reduce the amount of carbon that is being pumped into the world's oceans. Climate action groups and grassroots movements have long called on governments to impose a moratorium on fossil fuel drilling, which pumps about 1 billion metric tons of carbon into the atmosphere every year. We already know that our CO2 emitting actions will have consequences for many millennia, says Timothy Lenton, a professor of climate change and Earth systems science at the University of Exeter. The study suggests those consequences could be much more dramatic than previously expected. If we push the Earth systems too far, Lenton added, then it takes over and determines its own response. Past that point, there will be little we can do about it. And some people think that this is where we are already at. Some people think we're already there. A growing number of scientists and others who are amazed at the speed at which it is progressing may be joining those ranks soon. Here's an interesting story, or not surprising. OPEC warns climate campaigners are greatest threat to our industry going forward. This is from July 8th, 2019. OPEC will be made redundant by the coming renewable revolution and by our climate emergency. OPEC, which remains the largest oil cartel in the world, has a problem. It is sitting on vast reserves of oil, which are currently worth trillions and trillions of dollars. But every day, the more people that join the fight against the industry, forcing the UN, national and state governments, regulators, and increasingly the courts to act, the more that value goes down. Eventually, OPEC will be sitting on a worthless pile of oil. When and if that happens, no one knows. By then, OPEC will be no more. What is the point of a cartel for a commodity that no one really uses anymore? OPEC will be made redundant by the coming renewable revolution and by our climate emergency. Or will they? OPEC has been a target of activists for years. I remember when Greenpeace targeted the organization's flagship meeting in Vienna in the early 90s. But just as BP has finally conceded that it might not be able to burn all its oil, OPEC has now conceded that climate campaigners are perhaps the greatest threat to our industry going forward. Speaking in Vienna, Mohamed Barkindo, who has just been reappointed as Secretary General of OPEC, said, "Due to our climate crisis, there is a growing mass mobilization of world opinion against oil." Golly, why do you think that is? Barkindo added that the mobilization against oil was beginning to dictate policies and corporate decisions, including investment in the industry, according to the AFP Newswire. Why this should be a sudden revelation could be deemed slightly worrying to anyone not living in an oil industry-soaked bubble. Indeed, just this week, a new report outlined how there were climate change-related lawsuits in at least 28 countries, and the UK National Trust announced it was divesting its £1 billion portfolio from fossil fuels. The writing has been on the wall for years, if not decades, and in many ways, Barkindo is stating the obvious about what is happening, but his admission is a cause for celebration for those fighting the oil industry. "Thank you," tweeted climate activist Greta Thunberg, "our greatest compliment yet." Bill McKibben, co-founder of 350.org, also tweeted, "Wow, wow, wow, OPEC Secretary General says climate campaigners are the greatest threat to our industry. There is a growing mass mobilization of world opinion against oil. Thanks everyone for your good work." Steve Kretzman, the director of Oil Change International, was more cautious. "We are not winning yet, but they realize that in fact we could. This is a dangerous moment. The industry and those that defend and serve it are dangerous." So let's not just say the industry. Let's say certain, governments, definitely the United States government, are defending the oil industry for sure. They kill, they murder. Wars for oil happen far too often. Never and none would be good. They're already trying to criminalize protest against them in the U.S. the world's largest producer of oil and gas. He added, people will continue to protest because people who see the role of this industry in driving and continuing to profit from the climate crisis feel they have to. Will industry escalate to violence in response to protest? In many places around the world, they already have. In some cases, decades ago, we remember and we're watching. So here's one way to circumvent all that stuff is to elect somebody who understands that climate change is a problem, Bernie Sanders, who might actually be willing to, do something drastic, like even shut down oil industries or largely hobble them. Or how about how about a lawsuit, against them? How about, hold them accountable for their actions, their past actions? How about suspend, whatever corporate, charters they have? How about suspend what licenses they have? How about, nationalize the industry and take all their profits to help fight climate change? That would be my proposal for that one. And I propose anybody who, thinks or talks as if they are progressive, a progressive candidate for president, those are the things that need to be done right away, immediately, post haste. If you didn't see, actually, there's another article, and I don't know where it is. Oh, I know where it is. It's in my inbox. Maybe I'll go get that one right now. Let's just go there. Oh, look at this. Wait, hold on. So he's saying that the OPEC are basically climate deniers. Barkindo went on to add that civil society is being missiled to believe oil is the cause of climate change. No, they're not. Sorry. This guy must be, maybe he's funding some Adapt 2030 YouTube channels. Maybe he's funding all this, the stuff we keep hearing about. No, that's not it. The ridiculous stuff we keep hearing about. Where is this? I'm sorry, guys. Excuse me. Can't seem to find my inbox. And don't even go there. I know what you're thinking. I don't need to say it. Let's see. Here we go. Let's go here. Nope, that's not it. This is also a very good article. Sorry, I'm kind of fishing around right here, but this is really worthy. Where are you? Oh, after all that, I can't find it. So, I know where it is. This is called Professional News Channel. Here we go. Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez moved to declare climate crisis official emergency. So Democrats to introduce resolution in the House on Tuesday in recognition of extreme threat from global heating. So there you go. Bernie Sanders understands the magnitude of the problem and is doing something towards it, about it, putting his money where his mouth is, being the progressive presidential candidate that he says that he is, not taking money from corporate donors because he is the person that he says that he is. I can't speak for any other candidates besides maybe Mike Gravel and Tulsi Gabbard, but they are so far down on the support list that, it's just not looking good unless some, amazing turn of events happens and they're both around 1% support. So, but we're talking about Bernie Sanders, who is like, 1 and 2 with Biden right now. So Bernie Sanders is the guy that embodies basically all progressive, the entire progressive platform that everybody else is trying to copy badly. Anyways, that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.